What were you doing when you were 11 years old? I remember when I was first 11, I was playing video games, just having fun, being a kid, looking at secondary schools and looking to do it for my 11 plus. But then things changed for me. A family friend decided to challenge me and said, "Do you mind building me a website?" And I sort of thought, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to learn how to build this really simple website, and I'm going to do it. So I gave it a go. I built her this simple website. It was absolutely basic. She still even uses it today, which I'm quite surprised about. And after doing this website, I remember she turned around to me, and it was about Christmas time, and she said, "Thank you for all the work you've done. Here's £50. I mean, when you're 11, you get paid £50. That's a bit like Christmas. So I'm there thinking, yes, the sweet shop's going to love me. But then in the back of my mind, I'm sort of thinking, actually, can I do this again? Can I become a £50 boy? Can I get loads of these £50 again and again and again? So I thought, well, surely I can. There is a way. People make money in this world. How can I do it? How am I going to do my sort of duties, and how am I going to get my money? So then I was sort of looking online, looking at ways you can make money, and I realised, actually, I like building websites from learning how to do it. I like getting my £50. That's called freelancing. And so I joined an online freelancing website, and I was bidding for jobs all around the world, and I was joining in, sort of saying, I can do it, this is how much we'll do it for, let's do it. And I kept going. I kept trying and trying and trying, getting all these jobs. And I remember when I was 12, I was sitting back, and I was thinking to myself, actually, how many jobs have I done? I looked back through my online profile, and I'd done about 25 websites, all paying this sort of £50. And again, I'm still the happiest bunny now. I mean, this corner shop, I was a regular there, really. And it then got to a stage where I thought, actually, what do I do now? I mean, I've do websites, £50, that's nice. But it's a bit boring. What do I want to do? But then I sort of went a bit off topic, and I thought, well, I can start selling sweets at school, I can start doing this, I can start doing that. And then I realised, actually, you know what? My passion is in building these websites for small companies who can't get online. So I went back to what I was doing and started building these websites again after about a 2-3 month break. And quite quickly, I began to have no social life. I'm honest with you. I was working all evening doing these websites, and I thought, I can't do this. I've got friends text me saying, do you want to come back to the cinema? And I'm saying, no, I'm just finishing off this website. And I don't call myself a geek. I'm not a coder. But yet I was building these websites. I was giving them a go. And then when I had this no time, I thought, actually, I can't do this. I need to actually find somebody who can work for me. So that's what I did. I went back onto this freelancing online website, and I thought, if I find someone who's job by job, they'll do the work for me, I can sit back, raking in my money, eating my sort of cherry bonbons. And so that's what happened. I found this girl. She was really good, excellent at what she did, based up north in Liverpool. And so I kept passing work to her. She'd keep doing it. Really good job, similar quality to me. Nobody would actually know, but it wasn't me doing the work. But it then got to a stage where actually I realised I was paying her more money job by job than I would if I took her on full time. So I thought, well, that's silly. Take her on full time, pay less money, I'm happy, she's happy. So I did it. I took her on full time, and I said, you know what, let's do it. And after a bit of persuasion, she did it. And at this point, she did not know my age. It was all done online. And I think that was probably one of my biggest mistakes going, because she found out my age. She read this newspaper article, and it said, 13-year-old kid takes on freelancer full time. And got good coverage, that sort of thing. That was amazing for a business. But actually, when it got down to it, she saw it as an opportunity. She saw that actually she could come into work at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and I'll be in my science lesson learning about things which didn't even relate to my business. And so I only really found this out when this client of ours sent me a text, and he said, I haven't had an email from her in a good few hours. And I was thinking, no, why is that? And I started to get really worried, and I was sitting there in my science lesson, no signal whatsoever on your phone, because of a stupid lab room's got no signal, and I'm there trying to text, find out what's happening. And she was doing another client's work for a different freelancing job, not for me, but for a different company. But I was still paying her for these hours, so basically it was double pay. So I had to end it. I had to say to her, look, I know I'm only 13, And that was actually the first time I said to her I was 13, but she realised from all the stuff she read. And I said to her, I'm only 13, I can't afford to have somebody doing work that's not actually getting anything for me. You're going to have to leave. And yeah, she kicked up a bit of a fuss, said, no, I'm doing the work, but I said, you're not, I'm paying for hours I'm not getting. And it was at that point where I really started to learn about branding and actually, what is a business? What makes you different? And I realised that actually making all these online proposals and not saying your age, hiding who you are, is good because you might think, oh, they're going to be scared, they're not going to work with you. But it's also bad because you're lying about yourself, basically. You're not lying because you're not saying what you're doing, but you're just hiding the details which actually could help the business grow. And so I then got to a stage where I turned around and I said, you know what? I'm 13 years old, so what? I'm going to sound 13 years old. So at the bottom of each of these emails, it said, Ben Towers, a 13-year-old young entrepreneur. And I was really impressed with myself adding that on the email signature. I thought, that's going to turn heads. But not everyone read it. I did get a bottle of champagne one Christmas to say thank you for a website. But then, because it's Christmas, parents obviously need to get them a gift, so that was sorted. And what sort of came from that is I realised that actually being young does have its disadvantages in the fact that I had one client who turned around to me and said, I don't want to work with you because you're going to run off with my money, not do my website, and go to the sweet shop. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, how does she know about the sweet shop? But you don't say that. I was thinking, actually, that's not the case. I'm going to do this website. I'm going to do a proper job. How I spend my money is not up to her. I mean, I'm not going to say now, I'm not a sweetaholic. I'm not there at a sweet shop now. But it was one of these things where it really struck me back, and I thought, why is she thinking that about me? Why is this client who I want to work with, I've been trying for ages to work with me, is this an excuse? Why is it? I quickly learned to discover it is the fact of a long-term contract and being your age. They get scared that you're not going to get the job done fully. And so I then thought, well, I don't care about that. I'm going to brand myself and be a young company. I've never worked in a tech company before. It's my business, and I'm going to openly say it. I'm going to try out methods which nobody else has tried out. I'm going to use this software that maybe no one's used, but I'm going to embrace it. And so I did that. And part of this move, I looked at making my own business. It was the move. It was taking the next step from being this freelancer in my bedroom, doing work in the evenings, to actually making this business, making it mine. And as it started to grow from that, I had my first full-time freelancer, and then my second part-time, then my second full-time. And now I've got 15 full-time freelancers, all working for me. And the reason why they're freelancers is because of my age. You can't do PAYE. And it's one of these things you don't really realise about being so young. There is challenges there. But the way I see it, go forth, embrace them, actually give it a go and overcome them. And so when I was really looking at doing the move, had this name of a company. And I remember going up to my form tutor at school and saying, I'm going to call it this. And she'd turn around and say, you're starting a business? And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm a big shot. I'm starting my own business. And she gave like this little laugh and thought, it's going to be a fad. It's going to end. It's not going to do the right thing. Go to university, get a big job in London, and actually sorted for life. And I took that as motivation. I thought, if somebody thinks that of me, I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to show that actually I can start a successful business and actually do it. And so I ended up kind of all these different names, all these different companies, which were all, I mean, they weren't even trading. I just wanted to say it to her to show her point that I was doing stuff. And so every day I'd go to her in form and say, today my company's called this. Again, we'll have the usual sort of little laugh and we'll move on. And then it got to a stage where I realised that actually I need to settle down and focus on the end goal. People might be in your way trying to think that's not the right thing to do, but I wanted to do it. It's my passion. And I realised actually stop thinking what other people think, start thinking what you think. And so when I started to build this company and started to build new services, because we couldn't just offer £50 websites, we couldn't afford to offer £50 websites. It's just, you can't run a company like that. A client said, can you build me a logo at the same time? And there's me thinking, I'll give it a go. But I didn't say that. I went online that evening, had to build a logo, went back next day. We are now logo experts. And this happened over and over again, and all of our services are all things which clients have wanted, because again, I don't know what a normal digital marketing agency offers. All I know is what they put on their website, not what they actually offer or how they work in the office. But as I was doing this, as I was sort of growing my company, age became a big thing for me. It became our USP, but it also became a hindrance. Things like business banking. We recently started a new social media company, and I wanted to get a business bank account for it. I had to resign as being a director of my own company, let my 56-year-old other director get the business bank account. Once the account was then made, I could then be a director again. And that's because I was under 18, I can't be on the board whilst I'm getting the account. And I remember this happened with me in my first company, where I was walking into a bank and they said, "You had loads of transactions today." And I'm thinking, yeah, that's pretty good, this is quite a good thing. And they said, "No, it's not. Why are you doing that?" And I didn't realise all these rules were in place. And I said, "Yeah, I've got a business." And they said, "What, on your child's account?" And I went, "Yes." They froze the account. They said, "You need to get a business account." So I thought, well, get me a business account then. Nice and easy, sign it up. Can't do that underage. So there's me thinking all my hard-earned money's been frozen away. I'm sitting here without a business at all, because end of the day, it's money that needs a business to run. I ended up sending a letter to the bank nationally, and after a couple of weeks, got a letter back saying, "We're really sorry, we've unfroze your account, use your child's account till you're 18. And we still to date get checks naming in the company name and ask us to turn back and say, due to banking issues, we can't have it. And they have to then sort of return it and repay. But that sort of led me on to actually realising that it's all about being the future. It's all about making change and actually realising that young people, we are the future, we are the next step. And I was really fortunate enough to be invited to this meeting with some of the top MPs and politicians in the UK to discuss what young people are all about, what we want to do and who we are, because it's not an openly talked about thing. The education system is being seen as you go to school, you go to college, university or whatever, and then you'll get a job or start your business at the end. But actually now it's all about you can start your business when you're in primary school, when you're in secondary school, because you learn a lot more from doing the practicals than you do in the classroom. It's all about getting the balance. And so I remember going into this meeting and sort of saying, this is what young people are doing, this is what we're up to, and they're making all these notes, and I'm thinking, why are they making these notes? And it's because they didn't understand, actually, that's what young people are doing these days. And since then, I've done a lot of stuff trying to lobby for young people, trying to get out of, actually, we might be young, but at the end of the day, give it 20 years, we will be the leaders of all the big companies, we will be up there. So why not start this training program as such earlier, and then we'll be better leaders? And I think this is where it's all about getting the get up and go attitude. It's all about actually saying, are you going to get up and give it a go? And it's something I say to all these university students and people in my generation. It's when I'm talking to them and I say, what are you going to do now? They say, oh, I'm going to finish my university course or finish education and start my business. And I'm saying, no, do it now. Get going on your business. Give it a go, because actually that's what makes you and that's what you're going to learn. Don't hold back. And it's all about realising that you can succeed, so embrace it. And like I was saying, is Richard Branson this week tweeted me saying I was one of the UK's most exciting entrepreneurs. But I'll tell you what I'm excited about. I'm excited about young people of the future, of the next big thing, and I'm excited that actually things are starting to change and we're starting to be listened to. So I want to leave you and just remind you that a number is just an age. It's nothing else. You can go do exactly what you want to do and don't let that hinder you. Thank you.